Welcome to the Team 7 podcast. This is the second episode. We are covering episodes 6 through 11. My name is Logan, and I'm here joined with Asher and Zach as always. And, this one is... We're getting our first taste of Naruto. We're getting what it's like to be in the ninja world a little bit and have a fight that's, a little bit more meaningful. So let's get into it. What do y'all think?
It was intense. It gets intense on these.
I agree. It is a definite shift from the first 5 episodes.
A good shift? Bad shift?
So far, it's good, man. I have a lot of notes. I got a lot to talk about.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pick up where we left off on episode 1. The last thing I said to you guys, or something close to it, was there's a character that's going to be revealed that a lot of people love, and I wanted you guys to tell me who you thought it would be. So now that we've watched 6 through 11, who do you think that is? That you're like, okay, this is the person that he was talking about.
I feel like it was the masked hunter of the village where the demon guy came from. What's his name? Zabuza?
Yeah.
The person that kills Zabuza. I think that's who you're referring to, because it seems like he's going to be in for a long haul.
What about you, Asher?
I was going to say either that person or possible second choice, the bridge builder. I'm just wondering, because here's why. It's because that arc started with him being it looked like a homeless drunk, kind of. And then over the course of these 5 or 6 episodes, it's like, oh, this is a really important thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
And he didn't just lie for no reason. So I don't know. That seemed to me like kind of a complex character that I didn't think was going to be anything.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think that something that I was watching this week was talking about Naruto's writing and how so often it gets a lot of flack for the early stuff. And I think that the point that the person was making was that the people that grew up with Naruto, that remember Naruto, there's a lot of nostalgia tied to that. And but there's also the side that you were a child, and your perception of what was happening and why things happen are not necessarily wrong, but it just could be different. I think for me, it was wrong. Like watching it now versus watching it then feels more complex, more in depth, more purposeful than it felt whenever I was a kid. And I think that's just because of, things that we pick up on because we're watching it as adults this time. So, yeah, I forget where I was going with. I think that was it.
So are you going to tell us who it is, or was that just kind of like foreshadowing and we'll find out later? And you can decide on the fly too.
Yeah. So I just wanted to see who you guys thought. So the person I was talking about is kind of both. It's Zabuza and the masked boy that we don't have a lot of information on right now. So we'll just have to leave it at that. But those two characters are loved, I think. I think that it's kind of the first time that you see Naruto really develop beyond troublemaker.
Yeah.
You get little glimpses and stuff, but that fight and the way that they got Kakashi out of the water trap, it was cool. I like it.
Badass.
Every time I see it, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely
clap to Team 7 for some teamwork here. Yeah, little snaps.
Heck yeah. Well, that was interesting because it seemed like after the first time that he sort of got out of a situation, it was like, oh, he's fully in control. But then it was like, he may not be in control. So threw me for a bit of a loop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because especially at the beginning of the fight between Kakashi and Zabuza, there's so much I've got you, checkmate, just kidding, substitution or something. like shadow clone, and then just kidding, I've got you. No, I've got you. No, I've got you. Like over and over again. And I think that it really does create this, like, at least for me, I'd say for most Naruto fans, you watch a fight happen, and if it doesn't go the way you want it to, you're almost like there's some sort of plot convenience that's going to be created to let them get out of that really quickly.
Yeah.
Which plot convenience is maybe a little too harsh. I think that Kishimoto does a good job of making things make sense and not leaving a ton of holes. Some people may have some differing opinions on that, but that's for me.
I will say for this,
yeah, go ahead.
for this episode 6, one thing that I took a note on was the theme song. Did they introduce a new theme in this change in the arc?
No, so
I just didn't
typically,
pay attention enough in the first 5.
yeah, I guess not. Typically, well, in the first episode, it plays like through animation as well, like it
Right.
continues the show. So, you don't see the actual like intro until episode 2, but I believe that it goes for the entire first season. Sometimes some anime, they will break it the half season. There'll be like 26 episodes in the season, but if you're going to week to week, that's half the year. So they'll run like, half that. And then the second half, it will have a different intro and outro. I can't really remember. We're either coming up on one or it's going to be the same for the whole season. I just can't remember.
Well, the only reason I brought it up is because I took a little break to not like get super far ahead. But when it started up, I caught myself yelling, "Come on!" with Naruto and the theme. I was like, "Let's go!"
I love it.
Yeah.
That intro is great, but they get so much better. They get
I'm
so
sure.
much better.
I'm sure. I will say too, just on the same episode, because I just kind of like took notes per episode and kind of split it up that way. But one thing that took me off guard in episode 6 when they were doing these little drills for teamwork and stuff, I didn't expect the earpiece, like the like technology in this like what seemed to me to be some like ancient world. And like, dude, I was like, what are they doing? They're like in the freaking FBI right now. Like they're like talking to each other and it's got like the muffled audio and everything. And I was like, okay, so this introduces a whole new dynamic to this show that I didn't expect. So it was just a little note, but I was like, why do they have earpieces? Isn't this like year 450?
Yeah, it definitely gives that vibe for like most of the show. That it's, pretty rural, not a lot of technology. Yeah, I think that it's an interesting ad. But I will say, and I don't know. It's just, that is like, I think that there are some things that happen in the early episodes, early chapters of the manga as well, that it's not that he wasn't thinking through it, but it's just like so out of left field.
Right.
And almost like it feels to me just like this needs to be there for this scene. But like we don't see earpieces again for a while. We do see them again. But like, yeah, it's an interesting.
I'm assuming this means Shippuden is like steampunk. I'm just kidding, but that would be funny
That would be
if
wild.
that was the foreshadowing of like technology to come or technology in some continent that they like haven't reached yet or something. But that did kind of throw me too, because I mean everything else kind of seems primitive's not the word, but there's not like cars, right? I mean they travel by foot. Don't answer. I mean, you don't have to answer.
I mean, they did for the bridge builder. Like they didn't like drive him there, which seems like it would be a lot less risky.
Yeah.
But hey, get that exercise in. They probably have step trackers too to keep their health in order that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I think that's a filler episode. Yeah, that's
Yes.
a great point. I don't think that there's cars. I don't think that there's trains. Definitely not this early on. Definitely not that I remember from a yeah.
Well,
So also episode 6, I just wanted to bring this up. I love the scene whenever they're getting their next mission and the Hokage is talking and he's going over all this, like he's going over the different rank missions.
yeah.
And then Naruto is just sitting there talking to his team. Everybody's listening to Naruto. He's just like, well, yesterday I had this ramen, but today I think I'm going to go for this ramen because it just sounds good or something.
Tonkatsu,
And
dude.
yeah,
I was like, dude, tonkatsu is so good, bro. Had to go get ramen that night.
that's funny. Yeah, I think that scene is like just so like true to the character of Naruto.
Yeah.
That like he would like he loves the Hokage and wants to hold the office as well at some point. But at the same time, he's just like, that is so boring. I have no interest in even listening.
But at the same time, I wrote down that it was super helpful because I was like kind of confused. And so they explain the hierarchy of like the different ranks, but also like the missions that go with each one. And I was like, okay, this is a little information that I've been looking for. And the little cutaway scene was definitely helpful to me.
Yeah, I jotted down that the exposition in this particular episode is like a video game tutorial almost, which for me takes nothing away from the overall anime, but kind of looking back on it, it's like that doesn't really work as a show. That's a very strange like cutaway, I guess. Even it was kind of in a menu where you could scroll through like you're playing some RPG or something. But I love it.
We get a little bit more of it too in episode 10 or 11, I believe, whenever they're talking. I think it's 10, whenever they're talking about
chakra.
Like building up chakra, and that goes into its own diagram as well. And I think that they do a good job of explaining the world to you quickly and efficiently without, boring you, but also making fun of itself a little bit to be like, if you find this boring. So
does Naruto.
So does Naruto.
So speaking of which, they like later in the episode 6, they also explain like the regions whenever they're walking to find the bridge builder. Or no, the bridge builder is with them at that point. But they're kind of explaining like the 5 different clans or whatever they call them. And that was helpful too, because I kind of like wanted to see how that world builds out and like who else is out there. And so I was glad that we got a little bit of a taste of that. But I have a major question regarding the regions specifically that Logan, you might be able to answer, maybe not. But why would the Fire Clan hide in the leaves?
Right. So they're the land of fire, but it's the village hidden in the leaves. And then there's the land of lightning, but it's the village hidden in the clouds. There's the land of water, but it's the village hidden in the mist, maybe. I'm trying to remember all these off the top of my head. Point being, all of them don't necessarily coincide, but in my opinion, there's like a way to make them work, like fire and wood go together, and then like cloud and lightning go together, mist and water go together. To answer your question on like a more technical level, I don't know. Like, I don't know if there's a reason beyond just geography, but I don't know what makes it the land of fire.
So
it just seems like a risky combo. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, true. Are there multiple villages within like the entire fire continent, maybe? And that's just the one that they happen to be like home basing from? Or is that the village from the fire land?
Yeah, so there's I may have just put it together in my head. But there's only the village hidden in the leaves. And these villages, there's other smaller villages, but like the villages that hold ninja, like the village, that's gonna be hilarious switching back and forth between us. But the villages that like have ninja, so like the village hidden in the leaves, are huge, and there's only 5 of them, and there's only one per land. But I just realized that I believe, could be wrong, that element of the land, the like land of fire, land of water, land of lightning, is indicative of the like predominant jutsu from that land. So we see like right now, I really hate to do this. Have we seen any jutsu from Sasuke? I'm forgetting.
We seen any jutsu? No, I don't think so.
Okay, then I'll just leave it. I think we'll see it. I think we'll see it very soon. But yeah, I do believe that the land name is indicative of like the predominant jutsu type that comes out.
Gotcha.
Kind of guessing, kind of putting it in my head right now, like just from characters that I know from different lands. So,
okay,
yeah.
Uchiha.
Could be wrong.
Thing,
if someone who's watching knows, please tell us. We would love to learn. But to the best of my knowledge, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess that makes sense for the fire, people to use just a log, because like to make a fire you need wood. I get that. But when it's in the leaves, I'm like, those are gonna burn down, bro. You might want to move.
But it is also like that. They say like the hidden village in the leaves because that's like the terrain that's encompassing it. So I've already brought up the land of clouds. Like that is covering the land there as clouds.
Sure. But it also makes sense too, because if I was going to do a jutsu to distract someone or even like make it look like I'm not even there, a log is going to be a lot less, weird in the terrain. Like Kakashi saw there's a puddle and it was a dry day, and he was like, that doesn't make sense. But if it was like a ball of fire, it's like, okay, who put this fire? Like, who is there someone around here? So that makes sense. I get it. It's just, I don't know. It's something that went through my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense with the water too. Because I mean, I saw it, in that part of the episode and was like, oh, there's nothing going on. And then a dude just full on is like under the ground and comes up out of a puddle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is wild. It seems like if they have that kind of magic, they wouldn't need earpieces, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It's a good point.
Jutsu, I'm sorry. It's not magic, right?
No. So that's the other thing that like the later in the episode batch, Sakura is talking about like activating the chakra, and those hand signs are what activates that and puts that like forth. So magic, like I wouldn't call it that, but I mean it's not it's also not feasible for our world.
Right.
So it's somewhere out there in the same like gray area, maybe.
Yeah. It does seem really similar to me to Full Metal Alchemist, because without going into too much spoiler territory, they are also like manipulating things with hand signs and manipulating like elements of the earth, essentially. So
are they turning things into gold?
I think one does that, and they're like, you can't do that. They all gang up. Yeah, they all gang up and kill him. So no, wow. I'm kidding.
I'm not gonna lie, yo. That scene between Kakashi and Zabuza,
I don't know. It's whatever you want to.
Zabuza Momochi. Dude, they looked like they were like doing some TikTok dances, bro. Like they were just doing whatever they were saying. I was just like, I'm trying to join in on the trend, aren't you?
Yeah. I want to go back to the puddle. So that was like the first time that we saw any sort of combat really, at that level. What were y'all's impressions? What did you think? Did you bite on it at all? Did you think like Kakashi got
Here's
or
my impression. The beginning of the episode on watching it on Netflix says PG. And then the list of like stuff that happens in the episode, gore is in there. And I was like, how are you going to rate this PG and put that there's a gore?
go?
So then when that happened, I was like, got it. It was kind of silhouetted, which almost made it like more intense, I think.
Mm.
So at first I was like, he might have got, I don't know. But then as soon as he was revealed to be parts of a tree, then that kind of set up for everything else in the episode to be like, okay, we can almost count on nothing being as it seems to a certain extent. But I like that they rein it in to a degree with like the water ball essentially being like as strong as steel, but he has to be there like with his hand on it to, you know, it put some rules into the world that I really appreciated.
Mm.
Yeah, I will say this. This show gives me trust issues because nothing is real. Nothing. You know, even the death that we saw was like, no, not really. You know? And I'm like, okay, cool. We finally eliminated somebody, and it's like, you thought that. Not really though. But I mean, I think it's cool. It's a cool dynamic. It's something I've never watched before. Like, I feel like that's why I'm like, you know, jarred by it, is because like there's so many decoys and clones and like, I don't know, just like fake things that happen that even the people in the real world or the world that we're watching are like,
no, it's the real world.
Right. But I'm saying like they're convinced it happened too, which makes me convinced it happened. And then it turns around and it's like, well, here's the explanation for it, while we stare at each other for, you know, 2 minutes, and then we're going to talk about it in our head. But I mean, I do appreciate those explanations though. It can get slow at times, but the combat itself is very well done. I love the art style. Some of the like, even just like when you think about art and like modeling those characters, the way they're running, the way they're entering a scene, they're very unique in the way they do it, and I appreciate the hell out of it. It's just like I just want to see something happen that actually happens, you know. And when it does, I'm gonna be like, nope, I don't believe it. You know.
I'm assuming like when it does happen, it's gonna be to an important character, and it's gonna be like gutting. Because we're gonna think, oh no, that didn't really happen. Or as soon as they find all 7 Dragon Balls, they can bring them back. But then that's not going to happen, and it's going to be like, oh, they dead. Don't like it.
Well, we'll find out soon.
Next time on.
I will say this as far as combat goes, Kakashi is a badass.
Yes,
I'm a big fan after these episodes, and that Sharingan, the little eye thing, bro.
Yeah,
I was like, hell yeah! I knew you were hiding something back there. And when it was like on full display, I was just like, bro, you're a vital piece of this puzzle for sure.
If that's what's going on with his eye, I can't wait to see what his mouth looks like. He's always got that covered up, so it's got to be some like reptilian freaking, I don't know. But I actually put Kakashi badass on my notes as well. Me too,
bro.
Yeah.
Knuckles.
Sonic. Tails. Robotnik. But yeah,
I think that it's interesting seeing the description of the Sharingan this early on and what they portray it as, because it like, dude, like you said, you like the fighting scenes, like they just go up from here, and the development and lore of the world and aspects like the Sharingan are just expounded upon and just given more detail into the history of it and how it can be used and stuff like that. So obviously we'll get there. But it is really exciting because we're just now getting into like, the thick of this arc, and the next time that we record, we'll have finished it. Yeah, you guys are in for it. I think that there's obviously still a lot that you guys don't know about the world, but even in just this next batch of episodes, we're really going to be shown like what the characters can do, and you know, just goodness. It's great.
Yeah. So far, so good, man. I am full in on Naruto so far. It's just I mentioned this in the last episode, and I'll get over it eventually. But like from the anime that I've seen, this feels so unique from anything I've ever seen, even in like American culture. Like, they say you've seen one show, you've seen them all. And I'm just like, have you watched Naruto though? Because this is not like anything I've ever seen. So, yeah, big fan.
That makes me very happy to hear. What about you, Asher? I know you've watched a little bit of it, and I'm obsessed with this series. So,
yeah,
what are your thoughts?
No, I love it. I think what I keep comparing it to is Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood, by the way, for anyone watching, because apparently the Full Metal Alchemist thing was like awful. They tried to finish it before the manga was done, and it was a disaster, but they re-released it. So there's that, and then there's Dragon Ball Z. So those are probably the ones, and Trigun, that I'm most familiar with. So when I'm comparing it to other anime, that's kind of my frame of reference. So I think I like it better than most, except Full Metal Alchemist is still my OG, my favorite forever. But as far as like story and world building, they're on par, I would say. Just good. And where you're saying that they get better, the fact that there are how many episodes? 500 something. How many is it with Shippuden? I did want to ask this in general.
No, it's okay. So there's 220 in Naruto, and then there's 500 in Shippuden. That's including filler. Zach and I, about a month ago or so, did the math on it, and I think that without it, it's somewhere around 500.
Without the filler?
Without filler,
yeah,
like in total.
Okay.
But I can't remember the exact number, but it is somewhere around there.
Yeah. Well, I think along with that, the characters in this are just more compelling than a lot of stuff that I've seen, which is cool. I mean, they've got even up to this point, like I put down that Sasuke mentioned something. There's Uchiha, and when he sees the eye, there's some kind of conversation there that maybe he has with himself, that they might be from the same like clan or something. Maybe that's not something you can answer just yet, but I remember him saying like that might be a possibility. So there's just there's so many things that it seems like it's foreshadowing in a good way, and there's not too many things. I think if we were introduced to like, whoever the bridge builder like fires in that one episode, then it'd be like, okay, we've got too big of a cast of characters here. Let's Walking Dead some of this shit and get rid of a few of them or something.
Just that one guy too much.
Just him. Yeah. And then he turns out to be like big bad at the end or something. But yeah, it's good. I like that. Another note that I made is that economics and politics, and then occasionally religion, tend to always play a role in the bad guy of a series, just in what I've seen of cinema and shows in general. And I think this does a good job of introducing that without getting way too in the weeds with it. Because like Star Wars Episode 1, along with the troublesome Jar Jar Binks character, there's like a lot of politicking going on in that, where to me at the time all I cared about was buying the Lego sets that were going to come out from Star Wars. But looking back on the story, it's like, man, they got a little in the weeds with that one, and they could have done some Naruto and left some of that out.
Yeah. I think that in my opinion, it's got great pacing.
Yeah.
And because I know what's coming, I know that it is a steady climb. And the amount of information that, right now may feel like it could be the tipping point of like overwhelming. I think they do a good job of giving you information in a digestible way that you can remember with the world, so that by the time you're at the end of it, 50 times more about the world than you do now, but it doesn't feel overwhelming because you've spent so much time there.
Yeah.
That's also, to me, a byproduct of the amount of episodes that they have. They've got the time to do it. And that just sparked another thought in my head that I had this week when I was watching about the difference in watching like these episodes versus a newer anime. Even if it was like the newer just episodes of Boruto, just what's coming out now. The amount of drawings that are in each episode is just wild. Even like these would probably be somewhere around, this is a guess, 25,000, 30,000 drawings an episode, which is just crazy. And now we're looking at anime that uses CGI and in tandem with it, like Attack on Titan does that a lot, and Mappa, the studio Mappa, does that in general. So they do a beautiful job of it. I think that it's always great, but it's refreshing to see just like pure just drawings. Studio Perio is the studio that did Naruto, and I believe they're still doing Boruto to this day. But yeah, I think that they did a good job of it. I really like it, and it's just obviously that nostalgia factor is really like hitting hard with me. But
that's kind of news to me, by the way. I didn't know that was all drawn.
I didn't either.
Purely drawn.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
To
my knowledge, unless someone else out there that knows more than I do. My research of this is been that it's like typically, I mean, this is just math. The way that I got here was if it's a frame, 24 frames a second. Let's do this real quick. So 24 frames a second. And then you times that by a minute, that's 1440. And then you times that by 23 minutes for the episode, that's 33,120.
Good grief.
So, I mean, that would be, but you've got to think they reuse stuff. They reuse what they can.
Do some like panning shots and stuff.
That will take up time. So, it's going to be less than 33, but, and you can also tell where they're spending their money. Animation is extremely expensive. And, in those fight scenes, you're going to get a lot more, bang for your buck in the amount of animation that you're watching versus dialogue, where the only thing that's actually moving is their mouth. That's a lot easier to draw once, change the mouth to 3 different ways and run it over, until it looks like they're talking. So,
and culturally too, like animation and anime in general in Japan is more than just a kids thing. Like it's the whole gamut of people.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the hardest things to really get people to understand without watching it, is that you can find an anime for anything. I mean, anything. Like if you were guaranteed, there's
no, I've seen it. It's great too.
I'm sure it is. And you can take it wherever you want it to be. If you want a very serious story, a very dark story, light, you can go any way that you want with it. Any length you can go from movie to short little 12 episode series, and that's it. Or obviously something as long as Naruto. One Piece is over 1,000 episodes now. So, I mean, you really could get into it from any direction and find something that you're going to like, I'm sure.
That's something I really like about this too, and what I think has got me really sticking around and excited for it is a lot like Trigun. They've got the goofy moments and the really bright, happy kinds of things. And then I put down in episode 8, first of all, we're all clones. that's back to Zach's, trust issue that he's talking about. I'm assuming at this point everyone's a clone by episode 11 where we left off. But anyway, the stuff gets so dark with Zabuza about like killing the other students for their like exit exam or whatever it is. I was
graduation exam.
Yeah. And I mean, up to that point, they mentioned some things about, I think Kakashi mentions like, you got to work as a team, your lives are on the line. And that's like kind of just words up to this point where dude is like, hey, I've actually murdered people so that I could graduate freaking high school or something. And I was like, whoa, this just got darker than Bambi and the Lion King. And this is like the kid era of Naruto, technically, right?
Yeah.
So I like that there's duality to all the characters, and it goes so dark and so light at different times.
I believe in America this got a TVY7, which is
wrong.
Pretty young for some of this. You're opening up. I mean, even episode 1, you're getting like lewdness. Is that the word here?
Yeah, I'd say so.
With like the sexy
nosebleeds.
Yeah, all that. So TVY, I believe it's TVY7, but yeah.
I mean, I had my first nosebleed around 7 or 8.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on until I was like 12 or 13, but I did have at least one nosebleed.
Oh my God.
7 or 8. Yeah, there's a certain like loss of innocence to it. That as an adult now, it's like, okay, I get it. But if I watched this when I was 7 or 8, I mean, I don't know that I would have processed it at the time, but that seems early to experience all that. But I would prefer it to something like The Fox and the Hound, if I'm being honest, because is just too much. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about it.
I do have a question from episode 8 as well. It's a small detail. Maybe it has more to do with the entire show.
Can I guess? Is it the bingo book?
It's the bingo book, bro.
What's going on with the bingo books?
What's a bingo book?
So a bingo book is effectively a book of Rogue Ninja from the Hidden Leaf perspective. They also have one. And in theirs is going to be all of their rogue ninja that have left the village, all of the ninja that are a threat to the Hidden Leaf village. And that's probably about it. Just anybody that's a threat. Really, this is going to be like your most wanted list.
Gotcha.
And the bounties on the heads of these different people vary. You can dead or alive, whatever. But more than anything, it's gonna be it kind of seems to be a little bit of a Pokédex of ninja that you may come across, that if you're a high level ninja, you're gonna want to fight or beware of something.
So if that's the FBI's most wanted list, are the Hokage like the FBI in that sense of like criminal activity or something? Or is it sort of anarchy, maybe?
I don't know if I understand exactly what you're talking about.
I guess what I'm asking is like, if those ninjas are on a list somewhere, who is the one compiling the list, and why are they kind of elevated to that level? Like, is there some sort of law enforcement who is like, hey, if we find them, we shoot to kill? Or is it Wild West, like there's a bounty board or something?
So the ninja are the main like law enforcement.
Okay.
Between villages. They're
I understand. I'm not really asking the question in a way that would make sense for the show, because I'm kind of relating it to, Earth.
There are police in the village. It's different needs for different things. You've got like village problems, and then you've got like ninja problems, and you see those level or those rank D, sometimes what is supposed to be rank C missions are predominantly like tasks that people need ran around the village or something that they just need help with, and that's where you'd like the ninja get involved with the actual like dealings of the people in the village.
Okay.
But who, as far as like who is compiling that and making that book, I can't really answer that yet.
Okay.
But it's not as big of a deal as it may seem.
Dang.
But the bingo book is there. It's a very real thing. I wonder if if that's like derived from some sort of book that's used or has been used in Japanese culture. I have no clue. No idea why it's called bingo book. Like, yeah, don't know much about it.
I feel like just from my ignorant perspective, the different villages probably operate differently as well because of different cultures, different regions, everything about that. And our third Hokage in the hidden village in the leaves. I feel like maybe our bingo book. I say our because I'm like attached to Naruto already.
We're in the world.
We are Team 7.
Team 7, baby. I would say it's not even like, okay, we're gonna go after all these guys on the bingo book and we're like actively pursuing them. I feel like it's almost just like, okay, well, this guy's in the bingo book, so maybe we need to rank this up a little higher because this person is, you know, more dangerous than someone else that maybe we haven't heard about, or we find out they need to be in the bingo book for something later because no one ever dies in this show. So
well, yeah, like the bingo book that Zabuza has Kakashi in it, but like Kakashi's would never have himself because he's not a threat to the hidden leaf. There isn't really, it's not let's hunt them, and that's why like the FBI Most Wanted isn't really a great comparison, and it really is. Honestly, the Pokédex is a little bit better of a comparison because it's just information. People do track down people from the bingo book. We'll see that later. But it's not so much like let's try to clear out the bingo book as much as it is like here's a bunch of information on a bunch of different ninja that we know. And sometimes that's a little bit of information, sometimes it's quite a bit. I think that right here is a good spot to take our break. And we'll be back in just a little bit, actually, for you, just a few seconds. So see you in a second. Welcome back. It's been just a few seconds for you guys and for us. We are still talking about episodes 6 through 11, so we're just going to get right back into it. What were your all's impressions of Zabuza and the masked boy that we see just a little bit of, but first impressions? What do you guys think?
Zach, I think you should take this one because this is where you probably lost the most trust, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely thought the masked boy was going to come back later as like an ally, someone who they're going to team up with in the future, someone that maybe they're going to learn a lot from, someone that they kind of form this friendship relationship with, and that quickly dissolved into, are you freaking kidding me? Like, because I was honestly shocked that Zabuza died so quickly.
You broke up. You were shocked that what?
I was shocked that Zabuza died so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, dang, this guy is so strong. These little needles are going to kill this dude. And I was like, what weapon is this that I'm not aware of? And, they explained it all in the next episode and it's all cleared up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good decoy on the writer's part. But like, I was honestly hoping that this person was going to be, someone that they're, going to have as an ally. And now I'm like, dude, this person, we haven't got the name yet, right?
No.
From the masked boy. I mean, because when Mullet Man and his henchmen came in, and I got another thing to talk about him about, but when he came in later on, and the masked boy without a mask now was like faster than the people that were like ready to pull their swords out, and was like behind them, and they said to themselves like, they're so fast, they shouldn't be this fast. And I'm like, yeah, it's true, this person's going to be a headache in the future, not a friend. So maybe not, maybe they're going to turn and find their heart of gold like the Grinch does, but we'll see.
Soon enough, we'll get our answer soon.
The jury's still out. What about you, Asher?
I like the character. I could already see like some complexity there. So when they like quote killed him off, I was like, man, that would have been a cool story to flesh out. And lo and behold, the needles don't do much. They miss the carotid or whatever. I don't know where arteries are. But yeah, it was interesting. I liked that particular portion of the episode where I'm not really sure where they get to the town and they meet like, is Inari the child, or was Inari the who's the older guy who was like the hero of the town?
Oh my gosh.
That's Inari's like
adopted dad.
His dad.
Yeah.
It's hang on one second, I'll tell you in just a second.
Well, I liked that, kind of getting into that and having like a breath where there's some narrative and exposition, because it's almost like as soon as the exciting stuff with Zabuza and the masked kid kind of comes to a little bit of a close, then it's flashing over to them like behind the scenes, and it's like, oh, okay, there is more to that. And we're getting into this new town with the bridge builder and the new family. And I don't know, like it does move the story along more quickly than I think it's going to, which in my head is probably a product of like Dragon Ball Z, where every battle is drawn out for like 17 episodes and the exposition is such a headache. I don't know. I just don't expect it to like get to the next thing. It's almost like my brain, as I'm watching this, will start to like kind of check out for a second, and then I'm like, no, can't do that, because there's like another interesting thing happening. So that didn't truly answer your question of what I think about Zabuza. He seems cool.
No, I think
I'll leave it at that.
That was a fine answer. I'm still looking for his name, basically just scrubbing through the episode, but I
call him the YOLO
Kaiza.
Man.
It was Kaiza.
Yeah. I called him YOLO Man in my notes because he was like the most pure form of YOLO. Like, you truly only live once. Like, let's be the best versions of ourselves. I love it. I'm so here for Kaiza. In a way that he is no longer here for me.
Right. Speaking of which, in episode 9, when we see the exiting of Zabuza and we think that he's dead for real, and Kakashi's like explaining that they take care of the person, the elite hunters,
Inferno
Squad. They one of the things that I noticed too, which was kind of a cool moment between Kakashi and Naruto, was Naruto's kind of not accepting of what happened, and Kakashi had a pretty cool quote, and he was like, well, even if you don't accept that, still it did happen though, right?
I swear we're jotting down the same quotes. I loved that part.
Yeah, because it was more than just, okay, Kakashi actually sees Naruto for more than this punk. Like, he's like actually like being a leader. He's actually like trying to raise up the next generation of the people that are going to help his own people. And it was a cool moment to see Naruto not only kind of get his head shaken up a little bit, but then he also mentioned about this masked hunter. He said, people, we're going to find out that there are people younger than you that are probably more powerful than you. And that broke Naruto's head. He was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't even think about that. And so Naruto's gaining this perspective. He's seeing that the world, just like we're watching, is not as it seems at all times. You got to always keep your head on the swivel. You got to be prepared for what's not. And you always have to like just be open to any possibility that maybe you don't have in your own head at that moment. And that was a pretty cool moment between Kakashi and Naruto at the end of episode 9 before we go into the village where the bridge builder's from. And it was a cool like break in that I thought was a well executed ending of that scene.
That's almost like breaking the fourth wall of the show again, like with the ramen and the Hokage, like explaining stuff, because it's kind of a commentary on all the clones. Everyone's a clone, I'm assuming.
Attack of the Clones, yeah.
What was I going to say? There was something else about around that part too. Oh, you know who I think the young person is who's going to like rise up as even more powerful? Konohamaru. Absolutely. No? Maybe? You can't tell us.
We'll just have to find out. We'll just have to watch and find out.
I will quit the show if that's the case.
Well, maybe Inari, I could see, because now it's kind of like, well, anybody could come back, from the dead or just as a young character that comes back later. But I could see Inari coming back as a strong presence later on or something.
Well, I mean, he almost has to because of the foreshadowing of like, sneaking up on them trading for their chakra and like, whenever they first come in there to the village, he's like, yeah, whatever, these guys are dumb. It's like, I feel like Naruto, and then maybe not even just Naruto, maybe the entire Team 7 is going to do something for Inari spiritually and like in his heart, where he's going to turn into a pretty vital piece of the puzzle. I hope so. I don't know. I mean, that kid's went through a ringer, man. Watching Kaisa's story unfold in episode 11 was insane.
Yeah.
That entire storyline of Kaisa is just, honestly, it was inspiring, it was heartbreaking, and I feel for Inari, man.
I just want to read you all to piggyback off of that my notes for episode 11, and I will never do this for like every episode because that would be such a bore, but here's what I put for episode 11. Sakura is the best. That's a true thing. Don't try and refute it. Politics and economics are always part of the story. This one does it really well. I already talked about that. And then I put in all caps, the puppy, WTF.
Yeah.
What a horrible thing to watch. And then
it's kind of like Baxter getting punted off the bridge.
That's how I roll. And then I like that they raised the stakes from the simple like Class C escort mission to like a full story. I'm still thinking economics, but yeah, that kind of evolved into this whole thing that they have to go through. And then I put YOLO man, and then at the end, this episode is rough, and another WTF. And also, did Kaisa and the mom? Anyway, let's move on.
No, they got married.
They got married. That's not what I was asking about, but I'm glad to hear it.
Did they consummate the marriage?
Who knows? What did you say? You Kaisa and the mom what?
I just wanted to know if they fell in love. That's all.
No clue. We'll see.
It's a rough episode though, and I miss YOLO Man already. I hope that there will come another YOLO Man later in the story.
There's plenty of YOLO men.
For all we know, Kaisa was a clone, and we will find Kaisa again. So I'm kind of counting on that at this point.
Okay, I dig.
What did you think watching these particular ones back? Because you mentioned a lot of nostalgia for like 1 through 5, but was there? Are you noticing anything that you've missed in your multiple watch throughs, or anything that like hits different watching it now versus like in the past?
No, not particularly. These episodes, it's not that they're bad. but like they just get so much better. So these are just lackluster.
Yeah.
But they're still so good. Like watching these, like I'm interested and I know what's gonna happen. I know the story, and I just recently like watched through Naruto in 2022, just last year, and so these are decently fresh on my mind
Yeah.
or like memory.
But the better
Um,
ones are probably like fresher on your mind, right?
Yeah. So like I'll watch stuff and be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I remember that. That happened here." But nothing really so far. I know. It's only because it's early. It's only because
Yeah.
it's early.
Yeah.
We get into season like 4, 5, there's going to be episodes that I've forgotten or at least forgotten now. But this first batch is I've watched this Zabuza arc a countless number of times. Like don't know. From watching it on Cartoon Network as a kid to now, I have no clue.
Yeah.
And then that's also like the games I've played that's gone through the story. And so like the story of the Zabuza arc is very familiar to me. And that kind of makes the 6 through 11 just one big buildup because like I know that fight is just a buildup, but I was so and I'm loving this on my end just because I'm so excited for you guys
Yeah.
because I'll watch it and be like, I wonder what they're thinking right here. I wonder what they thought or if they bought it or anything like that. Yeah, but and I said this last week and I'll probably say it every single week it just gets better. I'm looking forward at the episodes that we're going to be watching next, and we've only got 2 more episodes of this podcast to cover season 1. So we're moving through and getting it done, but by the time we get to episode 26 and finish it, we will have a very good idea of your all's feelings of Naruto. And then season 2 is probably my second favorite part of Naruto.
Really? Wait, so
It is very good.
how many seasons are there in Naruto proper before Shippuden?
So I think I said this off recording last week, but 1 through 5 is predominantly just manga canon. They didn't have to do a ton of filler throughout the year to be able to show content from the manga. So 6 through 9 of Naruto is all filler, with the exception of some mix where they get, there's like 3, but basically all filler. So, I would say there's 5 in Naruto, and
Okay.
then 17 in Shippuden. But Shippuden's filler is more spread out. It doesn't all just happen in the last, 4 seasons. That would be
Yeah.
wild. So 22 is the number, but I mean it's kind of less if you start taking out all the filler. It's probably somewhere around 15.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe a little less, honestly. There's some chunks of filler in Shippuden. With that being said, if there's a filler arc in 6 through 9 that you really like, that you would like for us to cover, for us to watch, I think at some point I've probably seen most of 6 through 9, but I'm not sure if I've seen every single episode. So if there's a filler arc that you love, tell us, we'll watch it. We're definitely not opposed to it. We're just not going to go through and grind it out because that would be wild. That would be just so much more content to cover for no real reason because it doesn't ever officially add to the story. So let us know though. So yeah, looking forward. We've got 12 through 19 coming up next. We're gonna finish out the Zabuza arc. We're gonna learn more about the masked boy, and it's just It's so good. I've said that so many times this episode, but I'm really excited to get back together next week and talk about it because I think you guys are going to be really pleased.
Could I just ask Zach real quick? I'm assuming we're probably going to wrap up in a little bit, but Zach, do you have a favorite character so far? I'm even kind of thinking through it, and I'm not sure who I would even say.
I would say so far it would still be Naruto, based on character design and just, I'm a sucker for the main character in a lot of ways. But after these episodes, Kakashi has earned a lot of my respect.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like Kakashi, because I could see that he actually like respects Naruto in his maturity level and wants him to succeed. And I've seen that in just a few episodes now. I really appreciate who he is, paired well with his badassery.
Yeah.
So I think Naruto does a great job of giving the watchers so many options for favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of shows that you either just don't have the options or they're not good options or whatever, but there are just a whole slew of characters that we've not even met yet that there's how like every Pokemon is someone's favorite Pokemon.
Not
Every
Nosepass.
Naruto except for Nosepass. Every Naruto character has somebody who would call their favorite. I said that weird, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of characters that you guys are going to fall in love with as well. But again, early on, they do such a good job of just letting you figure out the world with Team 7 first and who you're going to spend the most time with and learn the most about and all that. So, yeah, season 1 is great with just a small select amount of characters. I think there's still viable favorite options, even in just the few that we've met.
In the Team 7 dynamic, I just feel like I have to say it because it bothered me in the first 5. And maybe bother is not the right word. I just feel like it's unnecessary. But the love dynamic between the 3 of them, where Sasuke, is just kind of like, whatever, I'm just here to, he's on a mission. But Naruto is kind of like crushing on Sakura, and Sakura is crushing on Sasuke. I don't know. I just feel like if it keeps going, I feel like I'm just gonna have to accept it. But I'm just like, when's this gonna end?
Yeah, I guess they are like technically middle schoolers if we're going by age, right?
So I believe they're around. I was hesitant last week.
Or freshmen in high school. I don't know.
They're, from what I understand, around 12.
Wow.
Which is weird. Like, it seems like they're at least a little bit older because maybe I'm relating this too much to Harry Potter, but seeing them in the movies at the age that they would have been in their first year was like, they're babies,
Yeah.
Which makes me feel like these children being 12 should look younger and maybe even act younger, but
So so you think they look older than 12?
I think so, but I'm also a terrible gauge of like how old people are. I don't know. What do you think, or what did you think? Maybe watching it. What about watching it for the first time when you were an adult? Like, did it seem like, okay, yeah, they should be 12 based on what's happening and how they're acting?
I don't know if I remember.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. If we go back, so there's me in middle school whenever Naruto first came out.
Yeah.
And I was watching Naruto then. I dropped it in like middle to late high school. Was like, I don't want to do this.
Too cool.
Just way too cool. and picked it back up my freshman year of college with our good friend Lance Asher. And if it wasn't for Lance, I don't know if I would have gotten back into it.
Yeah.
So when we rewatched it, then it was obviously amazing, and I loved it. And that was probably my first like real watch through of every single episode, because I stopped at some point in like 2009 or 10, and Shippuden was coming out at that point. So there was a certain point that I just hadn't seen beyond. So once we caught back up all the way to like week to week, and then got bored of that and started reading the manga month to month. They would release a new chapter, and we did that until Naruto finished. But and so since then, I've been doing just like rewatches a little bit here and there, or whatever, like arcs that I've wanted to rewatch. So I think that maybe has muddled my memory as to like how this stuck out to me as an adult, because it's just kind of like always been there for the past 10 years.
True. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I guess I don't know what I thought, but maybe like teenagers at least. But I guess they are only, if they're 12, they're like a year from being teenagers. So
well, and I think that maybe
I
by the time I was rewatching, I like knew, and so it was like it didn't feel weird that they were 12 because I knew that they were 12. So like
yeah,
that just felt right because that was the information I was given. But
yeah. I think, Zach, what you're saying about like the love semi triangle, it's definitely an isosceles, but or maybe, I don't know, maybe Sasuke and Naruto have a thing later on, but
well, we saw him kiss in the classroom.
That's true. Hey,
in the first 5 episodes we saw that.
I'm down for the BLs or whatever, but
I learned that term just this week.
Today.
Just learned that. Didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah. But I think it doesn't make it any less annoying, but it does help it make a little more sense in my head that they're kind of middle school age. Like when I thought of that, I was like, oh, that would have been around the age when girls were not like icky anymore and I was crushing on them. So
yeah.
But again, it's not any less annoying that Sakura is always like kind of, I don't know the right word, except Twitter pated, because I have Bambi on the brain from my notes. But do you remember Twitter pated, where they're all like, all the animals are like crushing on each other because it's mating season?
No, I've never heard that term before.
I would certainly Google it.
Nope.
Well,
I would certainly Google it.
I do have one other thing that I was curious about for you guys, and then also give my own answer as well when you guys give yours. But of these, how many episodes? 6 through 11?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the one thing that kind of stuck out to you the most? And as far as like thematic, like what is the piece that these episodes bring to the story the most to you guys?
I'll let Asher go.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine will be short and sweet. 1, everyone's a clone, and 2, that quote that Kakashi said to Naruto, like, well, it did happen. And though I think, on a more serious note, the duality of those two things and kind of juxtaposition that like things are not the way they seem, but then there was, well, this thing happened, you have to accept it. I kind of feel like that's going to be an ongoing dual theme throughout the series in some way or another. And it just, I think the reason that works so well, this is not short and sweet anymore, but I think the reason it works so well is because that's really true to life, you know, not to get all philosophical, but things are great sometimes, things are terrible, and you kind of have to just accept it. So
yeah.
Now everyone bow your heads and close your eyes.
Thematic. It's really hard. Like I'm struggling to, because I'm just, my left eye is going just crazy right now. But it's hard for me to I don't know. I mean, I have just watched the first 11. I'm struggling to give an answer to that because I know actual themes later.
Sure.
So far though, like I think that Naruto does a good job of of loyalty and of not giving up. And I think that we see that in episode 8, I think is Oath of Pain. 7 or 8 is Oath of Pain. I think it's 8. Um Whenever he stabs his hand, he's like, I'm not gonna run anymore. All that. That would probably be the thing that sticks out to me the most, but with the caveat that I'm struggling to only remember the first 11.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say that is because, what ties into both of your answers is kind of what I'm seeing for the first time watching this. And the thing that I am piecing together in something that Naruto says in the first 5, but also he brings it back up, is that he wants to be Hokage at all costs. He is like determined to be the Hokage. And throughout these 6 episodes that we watched for this episode, it kind of plays into his journey, specifically to stabbing his hand, saying, I'm not gonna abandon my team. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna take care of this bridge builder. He's like learning what it takes to be a man and be someone who others can depend on and look to. And I feel like that's not a secret, which is why Kakashi is like training him the way that he is. It's not just another fighter. It's someone that maybe in the future, when he's too old to take it over, or maybe he's dead, he can at least say that he instilled somebody that he could trust to the people as well. And I just think it's a cool way to start this journey, um, with all of Naruto's quirks and misgivings and everything. It's definitely cool to see that he has a goal and he's willing to do what it takes and learn everything that is needed along the way. So
Yeah. I think Naruto, the series as a whole, does a great job, even just all the way to the end, does a great job of calling back. It takes time and especially whenever you're watching a lot at once, you're like, I've literally just watched this scene. But when it's been 300, 400 episodes since you've thought about it, and then it shows you again, and it's like, here's what happened to jog your memory. I think that they do a good job of explaining why Kakashi does the things that he does now. So that's something to look forward to and just know that like the story is like well taken care of the whole way through and there's a lot of things that seem like they're not. I mean, even like Kakashi looking at the puddle, like that happens in the scene that we watch it at first. Like he glances at the puddle, he says he doesn't say anything, but then we realize later that it's a big deal. That happens because the whole series is like you said, like everything is like not as it seems. So some mundane things become very important, and some seemingly important things are not so. So yeah, just you're along for the ride. It's really hard to keep up with it and guess right every single time because they'll break your neck on purpose a few times.
yeah, I'm looking forward to what Mullet Man what he's up to in the future.
So let's go ahead and wrap it up then. Do you guys have anything else, like any other notes that we didn't get to cover? Anything else you wanted to bring up?
I feel good. Man.
Cool. Well, then I think that's going to bring us to the end of episode 2. Once again, this is episode 6 through 11. If you're watching along with us, please join in the conversation. Just get at us on some sort of social media, or wherever you're watching this, maybe YouTube or whatever. Next, we are watching episodes 12 through 19. We're going to finish the Zabuza arc. There is a chance, a very small chance, that we do through 20. But if you are watching along with us, just go ahead and plan on through 19. And we will see what happens to Team 7 and Zabuza and the boy in the mask and all that. Can't wait.
Real quick, what's our Instagram?
Sorry. Yes. So, what is our Instagram? Team 7 Podcast?
Team 7 Pod.
Team 7 Pod. At Team 7 Pod on Instagram. Our YouTube channel is Team 7 Podcast. Yeah. If one of those, you're either at one of those right now. The other one, now you have the information. So, see you later.